All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Friday, December 9th, and we've got some portal talk, transfer talk, recruiting talk, everything recruiting related to talk about today. I mean, it's crazy. It's the wild, wild west right now. So many moving parts, in-home visits, all the good stuff that is happening for Oklahoma football. That's going to ultimately end in I think a pretty happy December 21st, if you ask me, for Oklahoma and Oklahoma Sooner fans. But before we get into today, there's a little bit of a change about Two Plane Sports. Two Plane Sports now will cover two universities, two schools. Don't worry, we're not covering the Big 12 or the SEC opponent. Colorado has been added to our coverage. Our videos will not change on here. We'll still be putting out 3 times a week, as much as we can, as long as we've got content. Every morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:30 Central. But the Colorado videos will be posting 1 p.m. Central on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. They will be basically somewhat of the similar format as we've got here. We talk recruiting, we talk games, we talk about transfers, we talk coaching, everything else related to Colorado. Deion Sanders brings a lot of energy to that program, and we felt like it would be a cool school to cover and expand our coverage in. So we encourage you guys to stop by and watch that video. If not, no big deal. I understand if you're all Oklahoma, that's totally fair too. You don't have to, but just don't be shocked when you start seeing some Colorado feed come on this YouTube channel. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment on the video, stay for the end of video challenge, and be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Apple, Facebook, and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. Our Twitter and our Instagram have been going crazy. So if you want live, up-to-date reactions from us or information, be sure to follow us on those social media platforms. That is the quickest and fastest way to keep up with Oklahoma football. All right. So today, as we're recording, which is Thursday, December 8th, Oklahoma picked up a transfer. And do you know who that transfer is? I think I might have heard of his name before, and is Austin Stogner. He was originally part of the 2019 class, 2019 4-star, number 3 tight end in the class out of Plano, Texas. Played for the Sooners for his first 3 seasons with the program. Obviously, Lincoln Riley left. He was concerned about his position coach of Joe John Finley. A lot of things up in the air. He was concerned, and he followed Spencer Rattler to South Carolina. South Carolina got him out there, seemed to promise him that they were going to use him in a very versatile way, and he really never emerged. The system didn't favor him. Shane Beamer was his guy, and he likes him. I mean, a lot of players seem to really like Shane Beamer, a lot of big Beamer guys, but they just never used him to his full potential. He was finally fully healthy in the 2021 season. The guy had an infection, nearly died, honestly. I mean, like, it was that serious. And then came back and was ready to roll, and he was available all season long, and just never could put it all together. And he came out today on Thursday and said, "I'm coming home to the program I committed to as a junior in high school," basically. And I'm excited. I think it's a huge addition. I think it's a critical addition. And I don't think there could have been a better veteran transfer tight end that Oklahoma could have gotten. What do you think?
I agree, and I think it's important to bring a guy like Stogner back because he is familiar with Norman, the area. He understands how passionate fans are about Oklahoma, so he's not going to get caught off guard when people are starting to be saying crazy things on Twitter, or his phone blowing up because Twitter and Instagram notifications, people showing him all that love. So that I think that's key. A guy that's familiar with the program. No, I know he's not completely familiar with the personnel now. A year changed a lot at Oklahoma. I mean, like you said, he ended up leaving with his quarterback. I actually saw it's crazy to me how a year, especially in football, feels like so long because I saw a highlight from the 2021 Bedlam game, and it was Caleb at quarterback and Stogner catching the ball, and I was like, I don't even remember those two playing on the field together. could have sworn Stogner was, out for the time that Caleb was playing, but clearly he was, and I just misremembered. A lot has changed. I mean, brand new quarterback, brand new offensive system, a lot of different weapons. Luckily, he will potentially have a couple of friends that still here from when he was at Oklahoma just a year ago. Um, Marvin Mims still hasn't announced if he's going to the NFL, so the expectation is he's still entertaining possibility of coming back. Well, having Stogner in the system give him a reason to hang back. He'll have someone that he's been friends with for a while now. He still has he still has Drake Soups that could come back. So like he's not going to be coming into something extremely new. He's going to be familiar with some of the guys, some of the coaches, specifically his coach and Coach Finley. I think like you said, this is probably the best tight end transfer, not just because of his skill, but because of the familiarity he has with the program and the coaches and some of the personnel. And he's going to have a much bigger role. I mean, we saw what Braden Willis did. I mean, if we think back to pre-Levy, tight ends weren't used a ton. I mean, the last tight end that really had a huge impact on this offense was Mark Andrews. I mean, maybe you can say like a Jeremiah Hall because he was, even though he was an H back and he was kind of used in some tight end formations, but really Mark Andrews was the last big tight end for Oklahoma. And Stogner could have a big year. I mean, he's going to be training with Schmitty, and one of the things that is going to be important for him is still to add on a little bit of muscle. He already has a solid frame, but adding just that extra 5 pounds of muscle, 5-10 pounds could help him. His blocking has gotten better over this last year. That's something that he was used a lot in at South Carolina. So expect him to be better than he was last time we saw him in Oklahoma. And he can still catch the ball pretty well. I mean, him and Jaheim Bell had very similar stats, and I saw some people that were saying Jaheim Bell is a significantly better tight end when statistically they were identical. So Stogner is going to be an impactful player next year, and I would bet by the end of the year, we're going to see a lot of very similar sentiments that we're seeing on Stogner that we're seeing about Braden Willis now.
I agree. I think the success in the system that Braden Willis had probably opened his eyes and thought, man, I could go be that guy. And I would argue that Stogner has more natural talent than Braden Willis as well. You're talking about 2021. His best game was Bedlam. 3 catches, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. His final season in Oklahoma, he totaled 166 yards, 3 touchdowns. Struggled. That whole offense struggled. Something was off, obviously, with the previous staff. So I think it's a little deceiving, but he's a big get. And I know some people were upset about him leaving and going. We already talked about it in the live stream. Don't need to go into it, but I think Oklahoma fans should welcome him back with open arms. And if not, by middle of the season, they'll be very happy that he's on the roster. So we're pumped that he's back, finished what he started, and we'll see what happens. I think it's a big time addition. And the tight end room has a total different feel to it now. So moving on, OU offered on Thursday, extended a new offer to defensive back, cornerback CJ Blocker from New Caney, Texas, 6 foot, 165 pounds. He's a 2023 4-star corner. He's an OU legacy. His dad played football for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's late to offer, obviously. I mean, it's December 8th when they offered. For a legacy, he's been committed to Utah for a while, backed off of that. Has an official with Kentucky. USC is scheduled the following weekend, the 16th. So it seems like, he released a top 5. I think Alabama's on there, Colorado, USC, Utah, Kentucky. I think those are his 5. Oklahoma wasn't on there because they didn't offer at that point until now. And he just dropped the top 5 not too long ago. I think this offer does change some things. Obviously, his dad played for Oklahoma. It has to have an influence on him. And I'm not saying that Oklahoma is going to land him because they might have shot themselves in the foot, dragging him along for this long without offering him. But having that that connection could throw Oklahoma to the top. And I know the concern was just the numbers. And I think the staff's realizing with the transfer portal entrance, they've got scholarships, they need talent. What do you think about Blocker?
Yeah, I mean it is unfortunate that Oklahoma took so long to offer him, but the good thing is they finally did. And like you said, the numbers did seem to be the concerning thing and why they didn't get an offer out earlier. But the transfer portal, we've been a casualty of it. Unfortunately, it's not like we're losing a lot of production, but you can't have a roster that small in college football. You need to have as many guys as possible because at the end of the day, you don't know how players are going to turn out, if they're going to have a bad year, how are they developing? Some develop faster than others, some just don't develop at all and stagnate. It's, you're rolling the dice here and having that depth, especially looking past just next year, looking at the safety position next year, you have probably three really viable options in Key Lawrence, Billy Bowman, and RSJ. Outside of those three, you're kind of looking for guys to step up quite a bit. Maybe Jaden Rowe gets put at the DB at the safety position, but he might be a guy that gets considered at Cheetah because coming out of high school, that was something that Brent Venables sold Jaden Rowe on to stay committed to Oklahoma. Is he could be a Cheetah type player, compared him to Isaiah Simmons. So looking at exclusively safeties, you really have very minimal options. And let's just assume, assuming best case scenario, you bring in Peyton Bowen, you bring in CJ Blocker and Dave McCullough. That's three new guys that after next year, Billy Bowman might be leaving and Key Lawrence would be leaving. You're down to four guys again, right? With at that point with some experience in the system. So getting those three guys would be important. Clearly, we don't with the Peyton Bowen stuff that seems to be a never ending cycle, but hopefully, I mean, at this point, a decision is coming soon. Regardless of what that decision is, if it's Oklahoma or Notre Dame, it's coming soon because the state championship is just a week and a half away, or less than that actually. So we'll know Peyton's decision soon enough. We'll talk about Day, but he's supposed to be on campus this weekend for his official visit. So CJ would be an important addition here. And like you said, I don't think that not being in a top 5 list at this point is really matters because we didn't offer and we're going to make some noise. If Oklahoma can find a way to get him on campus next weekend, because like you said, he is expected to be at Kentucky this weekend, that would be a big move for Oklahoma because USC does have them on the books to be at their big final recruiting weekend before National Signing Day. If you can pull them away from that, you're a player and a legit player for his commitment just days before he has to sign that piece of paper to decide where he's going.
Oh, if he cancels the USC visit and schedules one with Oklahoma, I think it's over. I think Oklahoma lands him at that point. I'll go out on a limb and say that if you can jump in this late, make him cancel an official and go to Oklahoma that weekend instead, right before National Signing Day, I like Oklahoma's odds. But we'll see. We're gonna have to watch closely on that. The offer's fresh, so a lot of things can change, or maybe not. Maybe he'll just say, the ship has sailed and waited too long, and that's just it is what it is because that's happened to Oklahoma before. I.e. Cole Adams with Alabama. So anyway, Oklahoma also has been on the road, knocking on doors, opening, having recruits open their home, seeing them, David Hicks, Peyton Bowen, Jackson Arnold, Cecilia Kana. All this week, you've been seeing Brandon Hall, Coach Bates, Coach Venables, Jeff Levy. All these guys are scouring the country right now and are making in-home visits and multiple in-home visits, depending on on the timing and like a guy like Peyton Bowen's getting multiple in-homes. I'm sure David Hicks is too. Because you're only allowed to visit so much per week, and you get a couple weeks of doing this, and obviously Oklahoma's taking advantage with their high priority recruits. It seems like it's trending well for Cecilia Kana. David Hicks, my gut tells me still A&M. It's going, I'm not going to get my hopes up, but the fact that Oklahoma keeps showing up, I mean, they're making it interesting. They did an in-home with Damian Sanford as well. I just get the feeling that Damian Sanford, it's too little too late on him, and I don't see David Hicks leaving Sanford. So with that, that's why I just get the feeling of A&M at the end of the day. And if it's not, I will be happily wrong and I will eat crow on that, but those are my expectations. And Peyton Bowen, I mean, Oklahoma's making him a clear priority. Bowen's been having Notre Dame in homes as well. It seems like things are pointing towards Oklahoma, but it's just, we're going to find out here soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stretch, and luckily it's almost over. I mean, as you guys are watching this, it's the 9th. We're 12 days away from when the first day of National Signing Day, so not very long, less than 2 weeks before he has to make a decision. It's not even an option anymore because he's going to enroll somewhere and he's going to attend a university and move into a campus in January. That decision's got to be made in less than 12 days if it's not already made. Doesn't seem like it's exactly 100% made, but if you listen to anyone that knows inside information, everyone's starting to lean towards Peyton Bowen. You've heard it from Drummel and Parker Thune over the last couple of weeks. Thune said it on our show when we had him on last week. Nick Harris from Rivals, future Cassidy to Oklahoma. So it seems like things are trending Oklahoma's way. And I know some people just don't want to experience disappointment, but you also just can't be so pessimistic. You're like, there's no way that we land any players anymore. Like, the reality is Oklahoma is still a contender for some of these big time players, and Peyton Bowen seems to be the one that's more likely to flip at this point. I agree with you, Brum. Hicks, as much as we'd love to see him in Crimson and Cream, that connection with Damian just seems to be too tight. And Damian, his apparently his girlfriend is attending A&M. So just like the girlfriend is undefeated and getting Peyton Bowen potentially to Norman, the girlfriend's going to be undefeated and keeping Damian Sanford in College Station. Unfortunately for us, but that's the way of it. You're going to lose sometimes because of those scenarios. So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe we can pull up an upset. Doesn't seem likely at this point. And the fact that there's going to be some official visitors this weekend, I think shows that Oklahoma's pretty confident that Geyer's going to win this weekend's game to make it to the state championship, because Brent Venables still hasn't visited Peyton Bowen from what I've seen on social media, and that is probably going to happen next week. More than likely going to be for the game. I would assume that we're going to see probably a lot of Notre Dame and Oklahoma coaches on the Denton Geyer sideline next weekend, and a decision is going to be, I would assume that a decision is made before then, because it's going to be awkward if you have Marcus Freeman and Brent Venables on the sideline in your home before the game, at the game, and in your home after the game with a decision not made, and both of them pretty much just trying to get you to make a decision that day. That's my assumption there. We'll see, but this is going to be an entertaining next 12 days, I guess, because a lot can happen, and we've got a lot of big time players that still haven't made a public announcement of where they'll be attending college.
And another reason why to hit the subscribe button. So, because we're going to be talking about this stuff over the next week and a half. A lot of good stuff coming up. So we'll see. I mean, I like where OU is with Peyton Bowen, but it's one of those deals. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I think it's going to happen. It's just, I mean, he's still committed to Notre Dame. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all you can go off of. So, moving on to maybe a little bit of brighter stuff and more positive and a lot of good momentum. Dave McCullough and Deshaun McCullough. So Day is a 2023 four-star safety, currently committed to Cincinnati, 6'2", 200-pound kid from South Bend, Indiana. He is going to be taking an official visit this weekend with the Sooners. He has opened up his recruitment due to Luke Fickell ultimately taking the job at Wisconsin. And Dave McCullough has an older brother named Deshaun McCullough, who was a part of Indiana last year, played as a true freshman, had 48 tackles, I believe, 4 sacks, a stud linebacker, top 75 player, once committed to Ohio State before his dad was hired at Indiana and wanted to play for his dad. Went to Indiana and ultimately realized that Indiana is not for him. His dad's now at Notre Dame, and naturally, people thought Notre Dame was going to be in contention for both of these kids. And for one reason or another, maybe they're just wanting to do their own thing. I know Jay Valai, and there's some connections there with his dad. There seems to be some pretty positive things as far as the relationship goes. It seems like the McCullough brothers are truly, genuinely interested in Oklahoma. There's been crystal balls for both Deshaun and Day in favor of Oklahoma. I think this visit for both of them, I believe Day is visiting officially. I'm not sure about Deshaun. Regardless, they're both going to be on campus. It seems like we should see an announcement of both of them committing if all things go well. What do you think?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I would expect to see announcements, at least an announcement from Day. Maybe Deshaun's going to take a little bit more time to make that announcement because he is a transfer and he probably wants to make sure that wherever he picks is the last place that he picks and before he goes to the NFL. But yeah, seeing an announcement next week would not surprise me out of the McCullough brothers. And I already said why Day is important to get into this class, past the 2023-2024 year, but we're gonna lose. We're losing Deshaun White, and currently looking at the team and the roster from last year in the depth chart, Justin Harrington is the next guy up at the cheetah position. And call me a hater if you really want, but Justin Harrington did not look very good the few snaps he got at the cheetah position. He made a lot of errors where, if we think back to the TCU game, there was a lot of people that just pretty much walked behind him because he was taking the wrong guy in zone coverage, or he just straight up didn't know what it seemed like he didn't know what was happening on with the calls. And it's not just him. At that time, the defense was everywhere. It didn't seem like they knew exactly what was happening. But once the defense was starting to click, we never really saw Justin Harrington. And I would, if I was betting on it, probably because he just doesn't, the defensive scheme hasn't exactly clicked. Could he be the cheetah next year? Possibly, but a guy like Deshaun is going to compete and compete hard for that position. Played safety and linebacker and edge in the high school ranks. Was a linebacker last year at Indiana and is athletic enough to still play, at that safety position. So he's going to get to do all the positions that he's good at. Essentially, being a cheetah is going to be a weapon for Oklahoma if they are able to land him. And I think that in itself, the fact that not Oklahoma, Brent Venable specifically has shown that he can take a guy like that and put him in a position to succeed at all three levels of the defense. I think 100% Oklahoma is the school to be. Like you said, we've seen all the crystal balls. It's really not a surprise that Oklahoma would be the school to beat at this point, but this visit is going to be important for both the brothers because if you guys listen to Drum and Thune, those guys want to play together, and Oklahoma is the perfect spot for both of them.
And, it's just the fact that he could be the next Isaiah Simmons is a huge selling point. Isaiah Simmons was a star at Clemson, eventual first round pick of the Arizona Cardinals. That in itself is enough. And it's like a prototypical, it's like a carbon copy, his stature and his abilities. So he fits perfectly. And that's probably why another thing that Oklahoma merged here is the system favors a guy like a Deshaun and his makeup there. And his brother's talented too. He's long, rangy, and adds some much needed depth and maybe can compete for some playing time. I don't see it because, he's got some younger guys that are ahead of him now, potential transfer or two. But long term, he could be a contributor. Looking at another kid, another couple kids that we're going to talk about and kind of wrap up the show on these last couple topics. Tonight, as we're recording this, Luke Haas posted a picture of Nick Saban doing an in-home visit with him. And he's, for anyone that doesn't know, 2023 4-star tight end that's currently committed to Arkansas. Once upon a time was an Oklahoma commit, with the Lincoln Riley era. Flipped. His family has Arkansas ties. And I think maybe the Sam Pittman uneasy finish last year, pretty underwhelming for Arkansas. Not looking great. It seems like, I'm not saying he's on a decommitment watch, but it seems like he is open for business as far as hearing out other schools. Another feeling that we get is that maybe Micah Tease is also a target of Oklahoma, that there's been some communication there, that he's open to communication as well. Whether either one of these guys eventually decommit from Arkansas, that's a whole nother can of worms. But it seems like that Luke Haas having Nick Saban at an in-home, Micah Tease communicating with OU after they're pursuing him as a wide receiver. It seems like that there is potentially some movement for some four-star Arkansas commits, potentially. You're muted.
Jesus, I need to stop doing that. The Saban in-home visit for Luke Haas should be a positive for Oklahoma because, as you mentioned, they've been committed to Arkansas for quite some time now. They committed there together. If I remember correctly, they committed either at the same time, like same day they made their announcements, or pretty close, just from a few days.
Well, Luke Haas was committed in January, and Micah Tease committed in July.
Okay, but it seemed like those guys were committed. They committed because of one another, and Luke Haas got Tease there. So if Luke Haas leaves Arkansas, and Tease is already open to having to playing wide receiver at Oklahoma, as it was always reported he wanted to play at Oklahoma at that wide receiver position.
It's because Dylan Haas committed 7 on July 1st. His brother.
Yes,
Sorry.
I knew it was a
just
Haas.
wanted to throw that in. I just want to throw that in.
They're seems like they're all there as a group, and if one leaves, it seems more likely for the other to leave. So again, not saying that Luke Haas is decommitting anytime soon, but we're seeing, like, if there's smoke, there's fire, and Nick Saban is probably going to do everything in his power to get a guy like Luke Haas at Alabama, because he does already have a Tulsa product in Cole Adams. And right now, honestly, like the receiving group that they have at Alabama hasn't impressed. They were pretty subpar this year, at least compared to recent history. I mean, you've seen guys like Jerry Jeudy come out of there, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. They've had a lot of really good receivers. This year was nowhere near that, not even close. And he's probably looking for some firepower there, because assuming Bryce Young leaves this year, you're going to have a not very talented wide receiving group, especially from the guys that left through the transfer portal already or are in the transfer portal, and a young quarterback. And I believe his name is Ty Simpson. So he's gonna want some guys there that can catch the ball for his first year quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting and something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. Could OU push for Micah Tease, and could Micah Tease truly be open to it? Maybe. Could Luke Haas decommit? Maybe. But that's one of the things with the last couple of weeks of the early National Signing Day window. Decisions are going to have to be made, and it is what it is after December 21st, unless they decide to not sign early. But most kids will sign early to lock in their spots, considering the transfer portal and the abundance of talent in that portal, that schools might be willing to just take their spot. If they're not going to commit or sign, you might lose your spot. I'm not saying Luke Haas will lose the spot. I think he's that good that he's a take for most schools no matter what. But most kids will lock this down and be done.
If I'm assuming Nick is probably going to use Cole Adams as a recruiter for him, for Luke. If Nick Saban and Cole Adams can pull that upset and get Luke Haas to decommit, if we see that happen in the next week or so, I would feel significantly more confident about Oklahoma pulling Mike Tease and finishing off this 23 wide receiver group.
I definitely agree. I think that would be totally fair, and definitely seems like it would open things up tremendously for them. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of crazy things moving together. Do you have an indie video challenge for the people?
Yeah, so seems like everyone's hitting the transfer portal in pretty much every aspect of life. You saw 22 guys leave for the transfer portal, really old guys leave for the transfer portal. So I was thinking, would you, if you were a college athlete, if you were one of these guys in a big time program, would you take advantage of the transfer portal, or would you be more old school and just suck it up and stay for your 4 years of eligibility and hope that you can make it to the league?
It's an interesting one. It really is. I'm curious to see what people have to say. So, made it this far. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and be sure to do the in video challenge. And if you're already subscribed, when you like and you comment, helps us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. And we'll catch you guys next time.